I'm Gab, he's Jules. Blue skies, I think. I don't really remember. Over West London. What a show we have. There's so much going on.
Yeah.
Barcelona dropping points. Manchester United losing at home. No laughing in the back.
Nope.
Kylian Mbappe scoring. Kylian Mbappe
Come
not
on.
missing a penalty. How about that?
Yeah.
That's newsworthy.
That is.
But I think we have to start. But we also have MLS champions as well.
Yes, well done, LA Galaxy.
But we have to start in North London. Tottenham Hotspur hosting Chelsea. And I think this is where we have to start questioning, despite Enzo Maresca saying, no, we can't talk about the title. It's too early. We're too young. We're too immature. And personally, I think he's right. But hey, we have to ask the question.
Of course.
Can Chelsea get back in this? Because this is a big away win in London against Tottenham. Finishes 4-3. The Heung-min Son goal at the end, that was garbage time. The first two goals were the result of individual errors by your pal.
It's not even an error, to be fair to him. It's not a mistake he made. He just slipped.
Twice.
Yeah, but it's not like if I'm trying to pass you the ball and it's a bad choice and it's intercepted, it just slipped. It's not really.
Yeah, but
it's not a technical
twice
error.
And then he changes his shoes.
Yeah. But still.
Okay, so Stevie G didn't make a mistake?
No. Okay. Don't worry.
I'm kidding.
I think you just slipped. It's nothing that you wanted to do or not wanted to do. It's not really a mistake.
Well,
you made a mistake.
The reason I bring this up, and we're not going to spend the whole show on Cucurella, is that on Match of the Day last night, Troy Deeney, who never made mistakes, he pointed out that it's not the boots, it's that he has his body weight all wrong and he unbalances himself.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
I'm really not sure about that.
All right.
But yeah, you're right. 2 mistakes that cost 2 goals after 10 minutes, and you think, what's going to happen now, right?
Yeah. And I would also say, in the interest of fairness, when we're talking about mistakes, it was also 2 craven errors from Tottenham, giving away the 2 penalties from Yves Bissouma and Papsar.
Yeah.
I mean, this man behind us, Ange Postecoglou, is going to get a ton of stick, undoubtedly. He looks very unhappy in this picture, for those of us who are watching us on YouTube. But to be fair, when there's so many mistakes, when your team makes so many mistakes, after what I thought was a pretty good first half, you lose the game. The focus shifts on him, his tactics. People call them, oh, look, Spurs are naive. I mean, yeah, naive. I'm sure he doesn't tell them to go out and tackle like that, right?
No, that's for sure. But I think when you lack control overall in your structure, in the way you play, in your displays, I think that also makes people making mistakes as well. And I think there's a bit of panic at times when there's a lack of organization, which this is Spurs under Postecoglou. It's all attack, it's all a bit chaotic, it's all a bit crazy, it's all a bit exposed. And that's the way they're playing, and that's how they win, and that's how they lose. I get that. But I just don't think that helps the players. And yet, the Bissouma one, I think he's trying to come across for Caicedo, he misjudges it. The Sarr one is the most stupid one of the 2, but one of the most stupid penalties. Cole Palmer is going away from goal. There's just no need to foul him or anything. For Caicedo, even if it's just Caicedo, you can think, okay, Bissouma can see Caicedo going into the box. It's a dangerous situation. Cole Palmer is nowhere near being a dangerous threat for Spurs.
Yeah, and I would argue you have to look at the individual too. It's with all due respect to Caicedo, who's a phenomenal footballer. It's not like he's going to do a little. It's not like he's Neymar in the box,
absolutely.
Right? It's funny too with Papsar because he's actually, I have to ask, he's one of the most intelligent, cultured young footballers out there, as I discovered by reading a profile of him. And yet he makes one of the dumbest decisions.
But I think, again, he was just really eager, I guess. And I don't know.
On this issue of control, and actually before we get to control, the Chelsea point, when you benefit from mistakes and you make mistakes at the same time, is this why Maresca maybe thinks that they're right? Because yes, they're in a very good position, but they make mistakes and they have pretty evident weak points still, that while obviously they've improved tremendously. Is this the difference between them? Is this why Liverpool are so far ahead of them?
Yeah, I think so. There's probably a bit of that. Although I want to believe when you're 4 points behind the leaders at this stage of the season, you are very much, for me, in the title race. I don't know for how long, but for now, you are in it. 4 points is nothing. But yeah, they're far from being the finished article, for sure. They're making mistakes. I think they win those games because the opposition play to their hands, and that's what they enjoy. They are so good going forward, much better than anything else in their game. So if you allow them to play like that, if you leave all that space for them, etc., they're going to enjoy it massively. And that's why it worked so much on Sunday. But there are other games where they struggled because the opposition was far more structured and controlled than Spurs were on Sunday.
Jules, I want to go back to this issue of control because I feel like I know what you mean, and I think we're on the same page with what that means. We hear coaches talk about it a lot. I feel like we feel, at least in England, we hear that's become more part of the narrative. Well, we control the game, right? Some people take it to mean we had the ball in the opposition half, and we had a lot of possession.
That's one way.
That another way is, and I'm thinking back to the early Allegri format, Juventus way back when, or some Mourinho games where they don't have the ball, but the other team can't get a decent shot off. So control can mean different things. In terms of what it means for Tottenham, I'm guessing his view of control is to have a situation where Tottenham are continually attacking, continually causing turnovers. It does not mean Papsar, Udoji, and Bissouma making a little triangle in the middle park. Right?
I understand that. But I take you back to what you said before the Brighton game, for example, which was another disaster from a Spurs point of view where they were in the lead and completely collapsed. When he said, why would I control the game? We want the game as open as possible all the time and keep attacking and attacking. This is not how football works. Maybe in Japan, maybe in Australia, maybe in Scotland, maybe wherever you want, but not in the Premier League, not at this level. I'm sorry. Ipswich, Fulham, that's 3 games in a row now at home where they are left completely exposed with spaces everywhere for people to run into, where they just don't control any tempo, any like tactical shape, if you want. Even they're all over the place all the time, and I'm like, why are you working on a training? Why don't you want to change?
I mean, he's won things at every level he's been at, playing that way. That's what he would say, right?
But this is the highest level he's ever coached at, right? We agree. I don't want to dismiss Japan, Australia, so on, etc. But this is a different level.
Yeah, and I think also playing in a knockout competition, like when he won the Asian Cup, is also different than them playing in a league format. And I should be clear, Jules, because I think you're not saying that a 2-0 up, you just defend and counter. And in fact, because before the analytics nerds will come out and say like, well, the best thing you can do when you're 2-0 up is try to score a third goal, blah, blah, blah. And statistically, that's undoubtedly true, right?
Yeah, and he worked against City, for example, because they went and scored 3rd and 4th. So,
but the question, I think, is how you attack, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And there are ways
when you lose the ball.
Well, yes, exactly. When you lose the ball, and also when you're 2-0 up at some point, I mean, again, textbook, you're 2-0 up. If you can, I mean, textbook says, while attacking, keep the ball, try to slow the pace, try to draw the opposition. At some point, the opposition are 2 goals down. They're going to have to try to press you. They're going to have to gamble more. And that's when you can, I'm not saying play on the counterattack. You can do this in their half. Yeah, but that's when, you pick up free kicks, you play the ball into space, and that's when you get the 3rd goal, right? That's a textbook way of doing it. That is not how he does it.
No.
Why do you think he chooses to do it this way? Because I met the man. The man is not stupid.
No,
the man understands different ways of playing. He chooses to play in this way.
Because he must believe that by attacking all the time, like you said, you go and score the 3rd one. I'm sure that was the objective on Sunday as well. And the 4th one, etc. And like we said, when the plan A works, like at City, for example, recently, but that's the only win in 9 now in all competitions. Then when that works, no problem. It just doesn't always work. It actually rarely works in the Premier League. Right. So just do something else. I think he's very stubborn as well. I don't think he wants to change. I think he wants to do it his own way, which is fine with me. I just think he's at times completely counterproductive. And on Sunday, I'm sorry, from 2 goals up at home, even against a good Chelsea team, but a Chelsea team that you know exactly what they're good at, if you give them that space, the space they left between the line, Tottenham, for Cole Palmer to literally have a cup of tea, have his brunch, was unreal. Like, I can't understand. I was watching, I'm thinking, why is there so much space for Cole Palmer to get the ball, turn, play the through ball for Nico Jackson, where there's that great tackle from Draguzin. Yeah. This is textbook Spurs. How can you be at home and leave that much space for Cole Palmer and Chelsea to attack and expose you?
When you're playing with one guy in front of the back 4, because obviously Kulusevski and Papsar rightly tried to get forward. You need to make adjustments. I'm not saying you need to put them all further back, but you have to find ways to adjust, especially if you're playing against a team that has such a defined attacking midfielder like Cole Palmer.
Yeah.
Because even if he doesn't get the ball, he can drag Basuma everywhere he wants him, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The mitigating circumstance, obviously you start Romero. Romero goes down.
No
I thought
Bentancur.
Sorry?
No Bentancur as well, which probably would have started, but still.
You think he would have started in place of
I don't know,
Papsar?
but at least it's another option you can have that I understand he didn't have.
Madison also didn't start and set up the goal. That was by choice. What I would say, if you have Madison in the deeper playmaker position, at least he's another body back there. He may not defend very much, but at least he's another guy. I thought Van de Ven he was not a bad player, but had a horrible game.
Yeah, coming back from injury.
Might
be a bit early.
This did not look right. But then again, Ben Davies, of course, was also out. He had a hamstring. So I can kind of see that.
Yeah.
And you have to go to the doctor to say, two big officiating calls in this, which I think one pro Spurs, one anti Spurs, just to be fair in the interest of bounds. I thought they were both red cards. And I was shocked it didn't happen.
The second one is to even up things, right? Clearly. He doesn't give Caicedo.
That's not your job as a referee.
I know, but
that's not. I refuse. I mean, I refuse to believe that you're a serious international referee and you would do that. So the first one, the Moises Caicedo, I don't know if he's late. That wasn't even a card.
No, yeah, I think it doesn't apply pressure though. You can see that there's not much pressure on Sar's leg, which is bad enough. And it's just to have your foot on somebody else's leg is bad enough, but it's not like he
doesn't go to hurt him, but that is sort of the studs on the leg.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other one, the Kulusevski. Okay, I don't know if it was accidental. First of all, if it's accidental, Kulu, you need to do something about this. I mean, I know you're ginger and all, but you don't run with your elbow up like that.
Can't be accidental.
He elbows Lavia in the head.
Yeah.
That's a straight red anywhere.
Yeah,
and
I thought he was going to be concussed, Lavia. I thought I really feared for him.
He came off at halftime.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was for that or not. But and Lavia was probably the best player in that first half. I thought he was outstanding for Chelsea.
So those two decisions, I mean, you can say they evened out. I really hope the referee wasn't like, I hope VAR going, we didn't say anything because you are who you are, but you should have sent Caicedo off. And it's like, oh, great. Like, let Spurs then have a free hit on some. I mean, I refuse to believe that referees think that way. Moving on to Chelsea, you mentioned, we need to give a shout out to Jadon Sancho, who I thought scored a tremendous goal,
lovely goal,
but really was consistently good throughout the game.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sold on. I like Maresca's 4-1-4-1 de facto setup where Enzo's almost alongside Cole Palmer for a lot of the game.
Yeah.
I don't know how much it's replicable with Lavia in front of the back four and Caicedo at right back, simply because when one of those guys goes out, you have to change it again. Malo Gusto has to come in to play right back, and obviously Malo Gusto will interpret the position differently than Caicedo. He can still come inside. He
does a lot,
It still becomes like a 3-2-4-1 if you want,
exactly.
Right? On the ball, but obviously very different player from Caicedo.
But both worked really, because even in the second half, Gusto was good. Chelsea were even better in the first half.
And I think this is what he wants to do, and it's in some ways it's shades of the old Manchester City, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Before they decided to just put a bunch of defenders, of center backs at the back. We know the strengths, weaknesses. If I was to ask you, all right, why does Maresca keep saying this? And I want to suggest the squad is incomplete in terms of. I'm not saying you can't win the Premier League with Robert Sanchez. Some ordinary goalkeepers have won the Premier League.
I think Jorgensen is way better than Sanchez. I don't understand why Jorgensen is not playing. I really don't understand that. And I've been seeing him played in the last two games in the league in midweek and then against Heidenheim in the Conference League the Thursday before that. I just don't understand. I really don't.
I mean, I don't think Sanchez, he makes mistakes like goalkeeper makes mistakes. I don't know how often he gives you the value add of making the save he's not supposed to make.
I agree.
That is one of my issues. Yeah. And the mistakes are there, like they are with everybody, but maybe a little more than some of the top keepers. That would be one reason. Another reason I still feel they're a little bit light in midfield, because if you're going to have Caicedo, I mean, Lavia's injury record, of course, is what it is. If you're going to have Caicedo, Lavia, and Enzo, you need a number 4 and a number 5 who can play occasionally, right? And then you get into Renato Vega.
Yeah, you can have Vega.
Is what he is. Kieran Dewsbury Hall, who I'm sure Maresca likes him and trusts him, but he never plays him. Yeah. So,
not for the 18. But he played for the B team, really. He played in the Conference League.
Which they won't be able to do, I think, as much as they progress in the competition.
Maybe.
There's no real alternative to Nico Jackson, because when Nkunku plays, he plays the position differently.
Yeah.
These could be reasons. But all that said, nobody's perfect. And they're right up there, as you said, 4 points on the top. The game Liverpool need to make up is obviously the game that was cancelled, the Merseyside derby, which is never a gimme, right?
Easy. No.
So I'm still with Maresca. They're not in the title race yet, but they're very close to being in the title race.
Yeah.
And can we agree that if their peer teams are Arsenal, City, they're clearly outperforming them? He's doing like right now.
But he said it himself. He said it himself that they are way above where he thought they would be at this stage of the season, which I think is him being very honest, because I think he was probably very ambitious when he arrived in the targets that he had. But to be 4 points off the lead, whoever the lead is, to be 4 points away from the team top of the Premier League in December, almost at Christmas, is remarkable from them, considering they already played all the big boys. Right. Liverpool, City, Arsenal, Spurs now, and that they are where they are with the things that they do really, really well. And we said attacking, etc. They have the best attack in the league. And the things that they don't do as well, maybe a bit of defending, maybe their youth, maybe their immaturity.
I suppose potentially PSR could come back to mess them up. You have to juxtapose this against the fact that this is his first season. He had never managed in the Premier League. The general chaos of the summer with going and people asking him incessantly about the 40 players and all this nonsense. For me, if you were to give a Big Six Manager of the Year award thus far at this point of the season, and we were to exclude Arne Slot, because I think he has it in the bag for the many reasons. It would be Maresca, ahead of Arteta, ahead of Pep, ahead of Ange, and ahead of Eric Ten Hag, who's no longer with us.
No, but I don't know how other managers would have done, because we know they also had a short list with other names on it, and they spoke to other people in the summer before choosing Maresca. I don't know how they would have done with this super young squad. This is the youngest squad in the league. This is by far, or the youngest that team is the youngest team in the league, one of the youngest in Europe. But he was the perfect guy, I think. Now we can see it, and it's easy with hindsight, because you just don't need a manager for a team like that. You need a coach, because this is players' development.
Yeah, he's
as
teaching.
Good as they are, all of them, Palmer, Nico, whoever you want, Enzo, Caicedo, they are still young players learning their trade. And I think you could have had a coach that is more experienced than Maresca, older than Maresca, that I don't think would have done maybe as a good job than the Maresca who not that long ago was coaching
under 23s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for me, this is so much key. And I don't know how much really from a Chelsea point of view, it was like one of the reasons why we signed Maresca is for that background. But I think now we see how important it is, because they've grown with him. He's grown with them together, because that's what also youth team coaches are doing.
Look, I'll come right out and say this. If they want to give themselves a chance to win the title, if they can do it, and PSR might mean you don't do it, that would be my one thing. I'm not a huge Fofana guy, as you know, simply because the guy gets hurt. I don't think the other center backs are anywhere near the level of Fofana and Colwill.
Yeah.
That could be an issue. I'm not a cuckoo guy. You know that. Yeah. But I think the one priority is, God forbid, something happens to Nico Jackson. Nkunku, not a bad player, but completely different. But we've said it every day of the week, right?
Absolutely.
If they get closer, I wonder if maybe they push the boat out a little bit in January and try to address that, try to give themselves a chance.
There's also something, there was something that Maresca said before the game about Madueke, in the sense that Madueke was on the bench, by the way, how good he was in midweek, was back on the bench for this game, and he said, like, I need him to work harder. And I think that the only thing with those young squads and young team, you don't have a role model within your squad, like a super experienced guy like a Thiago Silva,
Right.
or Cristiano Benzema, those kind of guys that not everybody can have one of them. But what he said about Madueke, like I wish he would work harder every day at training.
Right.
He's not doing enough. It's also because I think when you are 21 or 22 or 23 and all you see is 23-year-olds who do the same thing as you because they are on the same boat as you, whereas when you can see all the people over 30 who are doing all the invisible work so much and all can give you all that guidance that you don't really have with a young squad, I think that also has an impact. So on top of what you just said, Gab, in terms of recruitment, maybe bring in a little bit of experience, which they won't do because this is not the policy, so they're not going to do it. Yeah. I think could be useful, but they're not going to do it.
Weirdly, the guy who I think has the most experience and who could provide a little bit of that is Jadon Sancho.
Yeah.
Who's obviously, the problem is, I mean, if you listen to Erik ten Hag, Jadon Sancho is Satan and he's not a serious footballer. I think he's proving some people wrong.
Yeah.
But he has been through that, and maybe he can speak of his own experiences of being a superstar at 18 and 19 and then maybe losing his way a little bit. But yeah, maybe we do have a title race. All right, that's more than enough, Spurs. How about some quick hits instead?
Let's go, guys.
Barcelona are held to a 2-2 draw away to Betis as Asana João scores a dramatic injury time equalizer, and Hansi Flick gets himself sent off for the very first time in his career. Jules, he's getting a lot of flack for his substitutions, taking off Dani Olmo and Rafinha. Are you going to be mean to him too about this?
That made no sense whatsoever. You know that, even you who want to be nice to him and to everybody. It didn't make any sense. Not that Barcelona were very good in this game. They were not again. And I love the way Betis played, even if they didn't have much of the ball. They were very threatening all the time. And I like the way they played. And I thought, okay, Barcelona this is not a good day for you. Somehow you're still winning. Just keep your best player and see this game out. Why do you need to change?
So I have argued that he needs to go and he can't just play the same guys over and over again. He has to integrate. It's not like he...
But it doesn't matter. Leave them two until the end.
It's not like he brought on Joe Rogan. He brought on Gavi.
Yeah, no,
You have to integrate at some point. I think more broadly, this obfuscates something else. That there's still an issue with the high line and the way to defend it, and they're tired. Betis could have scored 2 goals in the first 5 minutes. Let's not forget. And this is a Betis team who's on a bad run. So, yeah, not great.
Not good. Bayern beat Heidenheim 4-2 as Jamal Musiala comes off the bench and turned the game. Gab, Tony Kroos says that Bayern might be Musiala dependent. Do you agree?
So Tony Kroos is now the sage of football. He said this before the game.
Yeah.
What happens in this game? Musiala's on the bench, rested. There's no Harry Kane.
Yeah.
They have to bring him on to win the game.
Yeah.
Because this is where Bayern are right now. And it's a bit of a knock on Vincent Kompany, sure. But this is Heidenheim. Heidenheim, who played on Thursday night. They should not have had... sorry, they didn't play Thursday night. But still.
Yeah.
It's still Heidenheim.
Yeah, it's still a small team.
It shouldn't have come down to this. It's a lot of pressure. And this game should have been over a long time ago. So maybe things will improve when Harry Kane returns. Manchester United lose at home to Nottingham Forest 3-2.
No.
Jules, I am not blaming Ruben Amorim.
You're not.
Because when you have individual players, same guy twice, Lisandro Martinez, and of course Onana, laying eggs, or turds in this case, that's not on the manager.
Yeah, and Bruno as well on the Gibbs White goal. I mean, I'm sure we've said it before, but we're going to say it again. It's much easier for a new manager to put together a defensive structure, i.e. defend well, like we saw in the first half against Arsenal, where all they were doing was defending and they were well organized and they were disciplined and their structure defensively worked really well. That's okay. That's easy to do in a way at this level. However, to put an attacking structure together where you've got patterns of play, where you've got movement, where the ball moves well, this is much harder. And this is difficult to do. And that's where they are struggling. We've seen a couple of goals where the ball moves. You see Bruno coming deeper. You see Ugarte taking into that space. That kind of movement in this game, okay. But overall, they were not good enough with the ball going forwards because they're just not ready yet and they need more time. So it's not on him. It's not on Amorim. Neither are the mistakes. But it's easy to defend well than it is to attack well when you're a new manager with a new squad.
What I would say, though, is he has to sell people, right? And he has to get buy-in from players. There's going to be some foolish players people are going to look at this and say, oh, Amorim, 2 defeats in a row. Oh, what's wrong? You conceded 3 goals. these 3 goals were freak situations. Lisandro Martinez getting ragdolled like that, not acceptable. Dude, you're from Argentina. On the second one, whatever happened to Onana, I have no idea. And on the third one, what is he wearing, like weird spectrum glasses? He can't see the ball coming. Like I mean, that's got to infuriate.
There's other chances for
United's XG were fine.
Forest.
United's XG were fine in this game.
And Gab, remember when Manchester United worked so hard to get Dan Ashworth as their new sporting director? Well, 5 months after Jim Ratcliffe had said about Ashworth that he was clearly one of the best in the world, he's gone.
So I think this is really bad. This is really bad, not because there aren't other people who can do Dan Ashworth's job, because you've got, Ratcliffe's little friend, Dave Brailsford. You've got Jason Wilcox. You've got Omar.
He tried at Nice. He can't do that.
Okay, whatever. But you've got people who've done it before. You've got Omar Barada. You've got Wilcox. You've got Christopher Vivell who've come on board. All these recruits. He's the head of recruitment. All these recruitment types, right? No, it's not even a bad look, even though you're laying 250 people off to save a couple million a year. And how much did you spend? We don't know the figure, but United offered $2 million to get Ashworth out of his contract. Newcastle wanted $20 million. Martin Samuel in the Times reporting that it was $5 million.
Yeah.
This makes you look foolish. This makes you look like you're choosing the wrong people. If on top of this, the Daily Mail reporting that it happened because he wanted Southgate to be the manager.
Which we knew.
I mean, come on, you got to push your buddy again? Seriously? Yeah, right. I mean, I'm not taking responsibility for Ten Hag. It's just a bad look. You need to be in control.
That's a terrible look.
And it's a really, really bad look for Ratcliffe. And you know what? This isn't going to help him with the people who ultimately own the clubs and control the money, who are the Glazers, who are keeping a low profile right now. This guy's getting so much rope that he's hanging himself with it.
Yeah.
Jules, we not done because we have more quick hits. Arsenal are held to a 1-1 draw by Fulham. Jules, if I were unkind, thinking of Saliba's equalizer and the Saka disallowed goal, I would say something like, live by the tight offside, die by the tight offside.
Yeah, both were quite tight, although I think that Martinelli should stay on side, really. That's an easy one. He should have been a bit more focused because there's no him gaining any advantage to be where he is, really, and that's the mistake. For the Saliba one, it's just that Robinson forgot to push up and to play him offside. So he's there, even if he's tiny, it's still on. So Arsenal had enough chances to win this game. I think the 2 points dropped for them. But Fulham defended well. They're a really good team. And Jimenez took his chance really well. That's pretty much all they had at home, but still. And they worked hard for a really good point. And for Arsenal, I think they felt a bit disappointed, and rightly so.
I know everybody's going to give another big, wet, sloppy kiss to the set piece guy, Nicholas, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But I think this to me reiterates that, like, if you can shut down the right side chain right now, you've got issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Real Madrid roll on to a 3-0 win away at Girona. Kylian Mbappe scores, and Carlo Ancelotti says they're back. Do you believe him, Gab?
Yeah, I don't quite know what he means. I mean, you lost the game before this one with individual mistakes. But it's nice to see Chouameni at center back. Let's see how this goes.
Might be the future, we said that.
At least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
I thought it was really big. Kylian Mbappe played with such confidence. I know it's something to tell you when you're a little kid, you make a mistake. Every youth team coach says this, like, oh, look, shake it off and focus on the next one, right? But this is a real lesson in sports, possibly in life. Sure, you can learn from your mistake, but if you mustn't dwell on them. Mbappe, I thought he played with such confidence. I thought he scored a great goal. He wasn't outstanding. I still expect him to be a lot better than he is, but that was encouraging. And Luka Modric. He's quite a player. Surprised he played 90 minutes, though.
Outside of the boot.
I'm so looking forward to seeing Real Madrid in Bergamo in the Champions League. Yes.
Enjoy that.
Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Crystal Palace hold Manchester City to a 2-2 draw, and Pep says he's proud of how his players came back twice, adding that Palace is a tough place to go.
Please, come on. I mean, this is Pep Guardiola and Manchester City.
We have some stats on how tough Selhurst Park is for visiting teams.
One win at home for Palace this season. That's how hard it is to get there. And I think there was something that Glasner said after the game that was very important here. He said that they've seen before that if you outrun City, they would struggle. And that's exactly what happened. And if you think about the recent games where City really struggled, like Bournemouth, for example, They're against those teams that run more than them, sprint more than them, play with more intensity than them. And then we go back to the point that we made the other day about the lack of intensity in the City team now, because they don't have the legs to do anymore. They don't have probably the players to do anymore, certainly in central areas, in midfield. Then you struggle. And that's why they struggle in this game. Yeah, they came back to us. Okay, good for you. You got a point. That's not enough. And that was not good enough overall. Again, they conceded early. I think they conceded 8 goals or 7 goals in the league this season already in the first 15 minutes of a game. What's going on? How come they're half asleep at the start of the game?
They've conceded 2 or more goals in 8 of the last 9 games.
It's
A reminder
terrible.
that
They
Palace
can't
are
defend
1
for their
point
lives.
above the relegation, or 1 spot above the relegation zone. Gundogan is a revolving door in the middle of the park.
terrible.
Walker, I think, clearly shouldn't be out there.
Shouldn't
but of
play.
course, the other idiot gets himself sent off needlessly, Rico Lewis.
Yeah.
And what did you make of Pep's reaction when they ask him about it? And he just says, Rico.
I know.
Well,
But you know
said
what I
Rico
think was
Suave,
even more
like-
telling after the first goal, where clearly Kyle Walker is all over the place again, and you can see Pep going like, almost like if he knows already that Kyle Walker is going to be a disaster. Lazio win away to Napoli on Sunday night thanks to a leg Gustav Isaksen strike. Gab, it's as tight as it can be near the top of Serie A. Time to show some love to Lazio?
I think so, because I was so ready for them to implode, and maybe they still win. But the job that Marco Baroni has done, taking over this team, there's been so much turnover, so many guys leaving. He does the thing where he rotates a lot. He's almost like Inzaghi-esque in that way. They played this game without Rovella, who's their deep playmaker for them, so important. But Guendouzi came in, was
so good.
outstanding in
Yeah.
this game.
Very good.
Noslin as well, coming off the bench.
Scored a hat-trick in the Coppa Italia in midweek as well.
He did. Those were 2. That was against the Napoli B team.
Yeah.
And this brings me to Conte. You don't have European football. Now you don't have Coppa Italia because you lost in midweek. You played the B team against Lazio. You have no excuses for
That's
being outrun, outfought, out-hustled. And that's what
At home
happened.
as well.
I'm sorry?
They were at the.
They were at
Giovanni
home.
Rotonda
That's
Stadium.
right.
Yeah.
And that's what happened in this game. Lukaku clearly struggling right now. Kvaratskhelia looks exhausted. I'm like, you're Mr. Intensity. You don't have these excuses. You have a whole week to prepare.
That's very true.
And you come out with this. And I would have liked to see Napoli be more proactive, because you're at home. I think the XG was like 0.7 or something. You have to tell people, you take the game to the opposition. You don't just keep it close and say, oh, well, we'll find a goal somewhere.
Yeah.
That's not how you're going to win the title. Jules, the storms that hit the United Kingdom on Saturday meant the Merseyside derby between Liverpool and Everton was postponed. But that's okay, because
okay.
in the meantime, according to the Daily Mail, Liverpool were busy. They now have formal contract offers on the table for all 3: Mohamed Salah, Virgil van Dijk, and Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Well, we haven't had that confirmed, so we don't know if that's true or
Well,
not.
the Daily Mail says so.
Yeah, the Daily Mail says so. So
No, I'm pretty sure they all have.
That's
They
good.
all
I mean,
have
it's about-
offers on the table.
It's about time, because Mo Salah, as recently as 2 weeks ago, said that there was nothing on the table. So it's good that now there is something on the table for all 3 of them to ponder. I guess some will take that offer, some will want a better offer. Some might say no. I don't know. I hope for Liverpool they all stay. We don't know the details yet and how much they're offering to each of them, but I think this is good. And obviously we have a thought for this young Australian Everton fan, I think called Mackenzie or something, who traveled all the way from Australia to come for this game. And he saw Everton win in midweek at Goodison, but he wanted to be there for the last ever derby at Goodison. And obviously the game was postponed. So I thought with him, and I'm really hoping that Everton as a club, and I'm sure they will, bring him back when the game is finally rescheduled and played.
I think Seamus Coleman sent them a little video message. I'm sure that cheered them up.
Yeah.
My over-under on this, I think 2 of these 3 are staying, and it's not the English guy. That's my bold prediction.
Trent is leaving. That's what you're saying. Trent is
If
leaving.
I generally don't know. If I had to guess, the vibe I get, I think Salah and Van Dijk are going to stay. I'm not sure about Trent.
Wow. Juventus get booed off the pitch, not for the first time, despite coming back from 2 goals down against Bologna and equalizing in injury time with Samuel Mbangula. Gab, are you getting off the Thiago Motta Express now?
I kind of am. Like,
I mean, he was off to himself, like very early in that game.
Well, yeah, he got himself sent off,
Yeah.
stupidly, which again is a worry, because I like to, as a player, he was very good at getting other people sent off.
Yeah, true.
No, that's mean, Thiago. No, I like what he's doing. I like the idea of what he's doing. The execution is terrible.
Yeah.
Enough talking about the injuries. All the injured guys, pretty much, except for Bremer and Douglas Luiz, who's MIA, and Nico's never played for them. they're all back, right? You have your players now, and he's trying to do what he did at Bologna. It's great that he's pushing the kids, but they play at 2 miles an hour, and they're so conservative. And this is the garbage. When I have to be consistent, I criticize Max Allegri endlessly for playing like this, but Max Allegri had 9 more points in the table at the stage of the season than Motta does. Motta with less resources, whatever you want. He needs to do more coaching and get his players to execute better. They want to follow him. But right now, I don't know. I don't feel good about this. Atletico Madrid come from 3-1 down with half an hour to go to beat Sevilla 4-3. And it's your boy, Antoine Griezmann, once again stealing the show. 9 wins in a row for El Cholo Simeone.
Incredible.
And they have a game in hand. We have a 3-way legit race in La Liga right now.
Absolutely. And we said that already on Monday after the weekend because they have been great. They have been, of the 3, Atletico Madrid have been the best team. They've been the most consistent.
You never thought we would have said it, because when they're bad, they're really bad.
Exactly, and they've been really bad at times. But on this stretch, I think that was maybe started by that incredible win in Paris at the Parc des Princes, where they were battered from start to finish, and somehow Correa scored that winner in the last kick of the game, and that started this incredible run that they're on right now in all competitions. I think they are absolutely in the title race. We've got a 3-way title race, not just Barcelona running away with it, because I think Barca are going to get better. Real Madrid are going to get better, obviously, with Kylian. And I think Atletico are showing that, yes, they can also be at the same level. And for Griezmann, I mean, I've said it before, we need to enjoy those moments because this could be his last season in Europe for Atletico Madrid. And I think for that, let's enjoy the genius and the magic of the guy because he's very special.
And by the way, don't let the score fool you. Sevilla, I think 3 shots on target, 3 goals. Atleti were dominant.
Definitely. Early goals from Florian Wirtz and Jonathan Tah pushed Bayer Leverkusen to a 2-1 win over St. Pauli. Gab, how did they look?
They look bad. They look really bad when you play without a striker. Obviously, Schick and Boniface both out. Florian Wirtz is an absolute genius. Put them in the lead and then And again, it's the point you made about Tottenham earlier. You're 2-0 up. Manage the freaking game.
Absolutely,
St. Pauli, newly promoted St. Pauli. They're all over them. They're creating all these late chances. They pulled one back. They could have pulled another one back. This midfield with the 3 guys in there, none of them Andrich, thankfully, although he came on. It's just you're not managing a game like that.
Terrible.
I know there was no Frimpong either, but this is not a good look right now. Boom, we're flying through this, Jules.
Yeah, man.
This was way back on Friday, but Paris Saint-Germain were held to a scoreless draw by Auxerre, and it's 2 points dropped.
Again.
Jules, to be fair, I think they had enough chances.
They had, Gab, and
was the XG like 8 or 9 in this?
Not that much, but it was high. And as you know, in France, we take our players' ratings very seriously, whether it's in L'Équipe newspaper or Le Parisien or other newspapers. Very, very seriously. And L'Équipe gave the Auxerre goalkeeper 10 out of 10, which is super, super rare. Even 9 out of 10 is super rare. But for them to have given him 10 out of 10, he was that good. He literally saved everything.
He was like Benji Price.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you are a big Oliver and Tom fan, for example, because I think for most of the listeners...
Oli and Benji, as we call him.
Yeah, Oli and Benji.
Captain Tsubasa, as most of the world calls him. This just goes over everybody. All the Anglos' head. They have no idea what they're talking about. But if you're from Spain, from Italy, from France, from Japan, obviously, you'll know what we're talking about.
Exactly. So it was exactly that, Gabby. You're right. Outstanding. But still, PSG should have scored. They didn't. That creates more frustration between everybody, the players, Luis Enrique, Luis Campos too now. So it's not good before playing Salzburg on Tuesday night in Austria, which is the game that they have to win, PSG, and I'm not even sure they can do that now. So
just a reminder, Jules, to reassure you, Salzburg, last time I looked, which wasn't very recently, they're somehow like 5th or 6th out of 10 teams in the Austrian top flight. I know. And they're managed by Pep Linders.
Yeah, and PSG can't score against Auxerre. So I'm just not sure if they can score against Salzburg. That's what I'm saying. Also on Friday night, Gab, Atalanta roll over Milan 2-1. Paulo Fonseca blames the ref. Are you going to praise Gasperini men's instead?
I want to be consistent. There was one Portuguese manager who, when he doesn't like the way things go, because he feels he's been slighted, he talks about the referees and how he needs to be respected, and that's Jose Mourinho, and I criticize him for him. Yeah. Just because Paulo Fonseca is a more handsome version of Jose Mourinho and younger. And equally Portuguese, and I like Paulo Fonseca, if you're going to say something stupid like this, I will take you up on it. Yeah. What is this respect talk? You know how ugly it is? You know the implications when you talk about respect? You're implying that the referees aren't bad. You're implying that there's some sort of plot against Milan. Now, Milan are the most marketable team in Serie A by far. How does the plot work? Oh, let's go and crap all over the one thing, our most marketable asset that we have in Serie A. This makes no sense whatsoever. I think he let himself down.
Yeah.
I think he realizes it because he's a good person. I don't think Milan played that badly. He's very angry about Teo Hernandez on the first goal, about like, is there a push on Teo Hernandez?
Yeah, I can see his point.
Fine, but focus on other things. You lost to a very good Atalanta side. It's annoying that Charles de Ketelaere is doing so well, but clearly some people originally, and by the way, the funny thing about de Ketelaere is people who don't like the current Milan regime, they're always pointing out, oh, Maldini signed de Ketelaere. Like, guys, yeah, Maldini signed him, but it was a group effort, and then it didn't work out. Marseille gonna Marseille, Jules, and that means winning on the road.
Yeah, that's what
everywhere they go. 2-0 at Saint-Etienne. It's their 7th road win in 8 games this season. They're just 5 behind Paris Saint-Germain, and they're playing them soon.
Yeah, just 5. And De Zerbi, for the first time, I think, this season said, I liked everything about the game. The game I loved. To be fair, Saint-Etienne were never good enough. There was never really a match there. Marseille were far too good. Adrien Rabiot scored his first goal for the club since joining in the summer, and Mason Greenwood scored again as well. So pretty much the perfect evening. It was cold though in Saint-Etienne, but pretty much the perfect evening for them, especially with the points that PSG dropped on Friday night. And Gab, one more game from Friday night. It's Inter Milan, who beat Parma 3-1 with more Di Marco magic. If they win the game in hand, which is against Fiorentina, of course, they join top of the table with Atalanta.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I know we talk about Fede Di Marco endlessly.
Well, especially you, because you love him so much.
But I'm sorry, you're a wing back. The little move that he puts in, like, that's the thing strikers do. He's got everything. It's they were always in control. Parma scored late. They're like a machine, and they're a machine with interchangeable pieces, which make sure that everybody stays fresh. Yeah. This is an example of how rotation works and works well. I've said enough times. Simone Inzaghi deserves a ton of credit, and weirdly, he still doesn't get it. People in Italy say, oh, look, is Gasperini the best coach in Serie A? Is it Marco Baroni? It's never this guy.
Yeah.
Or is it Conte? It's never Inzaghi. It should be. Eintracht stays second in the Bundesliga, but they're held 2-2 at home by Augsburg. Jules?
Yeah, and they look tired, I thought, in that game. They played a lot, and we said that the game is a lot of running and a lot of intensity, and especially when they don't have much space to play into, and especially for Marmoush, when they play against a low block like this Augsburg team, they struggle, and that was not a good performance from them. And I think the break could not come sooner enough for Eintracht Frankfurt especially, but they stay second, and this is already, I think, above what they had expected at the start of the season. Jamie Gitten scores again for Borussia Dortmund as they draw 1-1 with Mönchengladbach away. Gab, 9 goals and 3 assists for him in less than 1,100 minutes this season.
Yeah, Jamie Gitten's is saving the bacon right now. I think it's 4 straight games that he scored. By the way, I found out how he went from being Jamie Bino Gittens to Jamie Gittens. It's not
took
because
the Bino off.
Yeah, but it's nothing to do with his parents. It's just his dad was Bino Gittens, and he says, this is kind of stupid. Like, double-barreled names. Like, they're for posh people and silly people. I'm just going to be Jamie Gittens, which, good for him. Again, is it good? Is it bad? What does it say about Nuri Sahin? I feel like saying this guy should have played earlier. And he's continuing in that tradition of English players at Dortmund, which is kind of neat, following in the steps of Jadon Sancho and, of course, Jude Bellingham. But Gladbach had a ton of chances late in the game. Gladbach could have won this game. Nico Schlotterbeck is playing really well. The rest of the team defensively still, I think, all over the place. You don't feel safe. This is on Nuri Sahin. It's on him. He needs to fix this. He needs to do better. Otherwise, really, the clock is ticking on him. Athletic Bilbao beat Villarreal 2-0 in La Liga's best of the rest derby. Jules, they're absolutely fine.
They are flying. We said that on Monday as well after their win at the weekend. They were great to watch, and Villarreal are a good team, and they had a good first half of the season. But Athletic Bilbao are just a step ahead of everybody else, apart from the big three, as we said, are in the title race. Athletic Club are not there yet, but if they can secure that 4th place, then there will be a hell of a season for them, especially as we've been saying, the priority is obviously the Europa League because the final is in their home ground at San Mamés.
Well, it's funny because they came out and they basically said this, and they kind of said, all right, we're not going to finish top 3, but our goals are to finish top 4 if we can. But our number one goal is to win the Europa League. And I love that. It's like another competition, and they're prioritizing that. And right now, they're third favorites, according to the bookmakers. Do you know what the first 2 favorites are?
So Tottenham would be one of them, I guess, because they always are English clubs.
I'll give you a hint. The other one also lost this weekend.
Also lost this weekend.
It's Manchester United, of course.
Manchester United. Oh, what a surprise. Hey. Danilo Cataldi scored the only goal as Fiorentina beat Cagliari 1-0. Gab 8 league wins in a row. Sorry for that for them now, for La Viola. And if they win the game in hand, which is against Inter, as we said earlier, they will go top of Serie A as well with Atalanta. This is how tight it is.
I absolutely love this. 8 wins in a row. I don't think they've always been good in that run, but it is a record. It is 8 wins in a row. They're so far ahead of where people thought they were going to be. And there's a sweet story. Of course, we know what happened with Edo Bove and his collapse. He and Danilo Cataldi are very, very, very tight. Cataldi put their WhatsApp message conversation on Instagram where, Bove's like, oh, look, tell guys to stop fussing over me. I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. And Cataldi said, well, I'm going to go and just whack a goal in the top corner for you. And Bove's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then he writes back. He says, like, I keep my promises, which I thought was sweet. Incidentally, Jules, because you're the one with the medical background here.
Yes, that's
certainly
me.
more than me. Bove's going to get, the reports in Gazzetta are that he's going to have to get what they call an implantable cardioverter fibrillator, or ICF, which is the same thing that Christian Eriksen has and Daley Blind. The thing is, you're not allowed to play in Italy with that. It's because it's considered unsafe. Obviously, Christian Eriksen, Daley Blind's been playing with it for 5 years now.
Yeah.
Where do you stand? I know it's a personal decision, and are we excessively cautious in Italy with football itself?
Yeah, but I think you've had history, obviously. That's why those rules are in place more than anywhere else in any other countries, really, because that's very particular to Italy to be so strict with the rules when it comes to heart issues and heart problems. I respect it completely. I can totally understand it. I can totally see it. I'm sure Eduardo Bove is talented enough to find another good club somewhere else in another league where he can continue his career and live his life. But I certainly respect what's happening in Italy.
I believe his father is a doctor, so he will have access to all the medical advice that he needs. He'll make his own decision. I think he can certainly build a career for himself abroad. Kind of weird if he makes it to the Italian national team and you're not allowed. Yeah,
because you could not play home games, I guess.
It's a weird one. I don't know. Monaco beat up Toulouse and win 2-0. Jules, they're also second in the table, and they're racking up the XG.
Yeah, they are level on points with Marseille, 5 points behind PSG, of course, and there will be a PSG Monaco coming up very soon too. So that would be very interesting. They were good. Toulouse, they were the informed team coming up more than Monaco, who'd been dropping points lately, but that was the perfect game to get ready for the big game on Wednesday in the Champions League when they travel to the Emirates to play against Arsenal. And that should be really, really tasty. I think if you could watch Atalanta Real Madrid with Gab on Tuesday and then come and watch Arsenal Monaco on Wednesday with me, because that's going to be very good. And that's where I will be this week. So very good preparation for them in that game. Claudio Ranieri gets his first win as Roma boss with a 4-1 victory over Lecce at the weekend. Gab, some breathing room for your boy then?
Yeah, Lecce are not a good side. But what I like about Claudio Ranieri is he came in and he said, all right, there's a whole gaggle of weirdo players that Jules' friend Gisolfi signed at the end of the transfer window. Guys, I'm going to hit the reset button. I'm going to go and judge you, from the start with a fresh slate. And so, for example, that means Mats Hummels, he started and he played well, and he responded. Hummels has had some atrocious games when he played for Roma, and people were treating him like a joke. Paulo Dybala played at center forward in place of Dovbyk, did really well, seems to be regenerated. And Abdul Hamid, who is Saudi, as you know, first Saudi player in Serie A. Okay, he didn't start this game. He came on after just 23 minutes, and people were saying, oh, look, he's a joke, he's a sponsor signing. No, he showed that this guy can play too. Yeah. So I think that's brought a lot of order to Roma. They're going to move up the table. It's going to be transition season. they got to figure things out longer term, though.
Definitely.
John Duran fills in for Ollie Watkins, and Aston Villa beat Southampton 1-0. Jules, they're back to joint fifth. It's all well again for Emery, or is it that Southampton are simply terrible?
Southampton are terrible, but we kind of knew that, really. And for Villa, it was still a little bit disappointing. I still don't think they're back to their full flow, that it's all good yet. And John Duran scored again, showing that he can do more maybe than a super sub, I guess, than what he was at the start, towards the first 10 games of the season or so. But I still think they look tired at times. I still think they lack a bit of creativity too still. And they've got more Champions League games coming up, which is also the reason why they've been a bit strong. Even if fifth is not bad, of course, considering they've won 1 in 8 or something crazy like that, or that's 2 wins in 9 or 8 now. They're still somehow fifth because it's really tight behind Liverpool in the Premier League table. But yeah, I think they look tired.
It's a good point on the creativity. I think Morgan Rogers, Yuri Tielemans, those are your most creative players, right? Which says a lot.
Yeah. Leipzig win 2-0 away at Austin Kiel. But Gab, there was a pretty nasty banner attacking Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, the banner was up for about, I think, 12 minutes. It was put up during the game and they took it down. It showed Klopp and some other Red Bull executives. They were made to look like grave diggers. And they had crosshairs on them, which crosshair means you're a target. It's ominous. I go back to this. Jurgen Klopp, what infuriates people, somebody's always going to be consistent and saying, like, I don't care about Red Bull and what they stand for and what they came around. I am going to go and, follow the money, whatever. But Klopp has this image as being the people's guy and so on. He's spoken out about social issues, and people can't deal with the fact that he would go over to Red Bull. I don't think he's helped himself in what he said, because his justification was, well, I don't want to retire. I need to do something. And it's like, yeah, okay, there's a million clubs out there, and you choose this one.
Definitely.
Again, for somebody different, that's fine. For Klopp, I can see why it leaves a bad taste, but putting somebody's face in crosshairs is just simply not acceptable ever, I think. And I think the Bundesliga should take action against Kiel. West Ham hosts Wolves in a few hours, but Jules, it's overshadowed by Michael Antonio's terrifying car accident.
Yeah, on Saturday morning, Gab, he crashed his car against a tree, I guess on his way back home after training, I think it was. Had to be helicoptered out of his car to hospital, where he was in kind of intensive care, and they had surgery for fractured legs. There's some rumors here in England that said that he might have to finish his career, terminate his career. He's 34 years old. The injury was that bad on his legs.
Well, they're talking more than a year.
Yeah.
Ow.
So we see that must have been really, you can just imagine how bad the state of his body must have been after that. I mean, when you see the photo of what's left of the car, you just understand. So really all our thought are with him and all our prayers, and we hope that he can recover. Whether he can play or not, it doesn't matter so much. As long as he can even just start walking again, that would be a success. So all our thought are with Michael Antonio on this really, really terrible moment. And sticking with West Ham, Gab, Julian Lopetegui is still obviously under massive, massive pressure. Could they really move for Max Allegri if they decided to sack him though?
Well, this is weird because the story comes out and then there's all these caveats. Oh, it could be Allegri, but not for now, for next season. Like, really, West Ham are going to go and get an interim manager until the summer. So what? So Allegri can learn English in the meantime? I don't think it's a good fit. Max Allegri sometimes comes out like, oh, yeah, I want to manage in England. Oh, what are Manchester United doing? Dude, deal with it. Your situation is what it is right now.
Exactly.
Your image is what it is. Maybe this is the level. If he wants to have an experience, he can do well. But again, I think Lopetegui is paying the price for faults that aren't purely his own.
That is true.
It's time. It's Texter time. Jules, we knew it was coming, but how about Botafogo winning the double with their first Brazilian title in 29 years? And while we're at it, how about Leon also winning 3-0 at the weekend against Angers? I have no idea what Molenbeek did. I don't care. But come on, this is we have happy JT.
Exactly. For now, it is a really good time for you to enjoy John Texter, because he hasn't always been like this, and he might not always been like this either. But for now, success everywhere in the Texter galaxy. Pretty much, certainly for Lyon and Botafogo.
Well, does he count Palace's home draw with City count? Or
Probably
he
he
gets
take a bit of credit.
45% of
Yeah,
that.
half
But
of it. He takes
He's trying
the
to sell
credit.
a stake, so...
Yeah, but Molenbeek, as we said, we're not really sure what they're doing. But for Lyon and Botafogo especially, first title, as you said, since 1995, well deserved. They should have won it last season. They collapsed completely and crumbled and missed out. And this year they do the double with the Libertadores. Obviously, they will have the Club World Cup coming up in the summer. So a lot of things for John Textor to be happy with. And yeah, I don't know for how long it will last, but let's hope it lasts a bit longer for him. Until
He
Christmas.
still hasn't sold his stake in Crystal Palace. It's 45% of the club. Although remember, like 3 weeks ago, we were like, oh yes, there's 2 offers on the table, but obviously for a lot less than they're worth. Because as we've told you, you get 45% of the club, but you only get 25% of the say because Steve Parrish, Blitzer, and Harris set it up in such a way. I'm wondering if the price of the... So he's got to sell it at a discount.
Of course.
If it keeps coming down, maybe you and I should pitch in and buy John Textor's stake.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, I mean, it needs to come down a little bit more. Before
Exactly.
Worth looking into.
Yeah, exactly. The Bundesliga have signed a new TV rights deal, and they've broken the €1 billion per season mark, Gab. Is this massive?
Okay, so I love PR people because I had a PR release like...
Of course.
Oh, Bundesliga rights, more than €1 billion. Yeah! Okay, so first of all, I'm not going to compare them to the Premier League, which are a lot higher because that's stupid, right?
Yeah.
I think they're behind. They're ahead of Serie A and Ligue 1, obviously right now with all the issues that Ligue 1 has, and they're a little bit behind La Liga's domestic deal. But let's put this in context. It's €1 billion, and you don't just get the Bundesliga; you get the second flight as well. So obviously, it's a lot more inventory. It's a 4-year deal, and it's a 2% increase over the last deal. Now, you don't have to be an economics expert to understand that inflation's been more than 2%, right?
Yeah.
So over 4 years. So I mean, it's good that you have a deal in place because, as we know, it takes a lot of worry out. But I think this confirms what we already know, which is the value of television rights is flat. People can go and scream and shout and talk about TV money and this and that. But we've seen it in the Premier League. We've seen it in Serie A. We've seen it in Liga. This is not a growth area for football.
No, it's like
Find other ways to make money.
Yeah.
The 2025 FIFA Club World Cup draw was held last week in Miami. Jules, for me personally, I am the biggest proponent of the Club World Cup. It really feels really far away, and I'm struggling to get excited about a draw. But anything you want to talk about?
There's a lot of really good things in those groups, because what we said before, it's exciting because we will finally see a lot of European clubs playing against a lot of clubs from other part of the world, which is great, which is what it should be all about. So for the PSG, Atletico Madrid, they are in the same group again, but you also have Botafogo, for example. So the PSG-Botafogo game is quite exciting.
Some texture time.
You'll have Bayern playing against Boca Juniors, which again, Bayern Munich against Boca Juniors probably never happened in the history of the game before, outside maybe of a friendly now and again. This is great. You've got Chelsea against Flamengo. You will have Inter against River Plate. You will have City against Juventus. That's the other one I wanted to make you smile with. But this is
We're
good.
We're getting that next week in the Champions League. You know, right?
Exactly. But still, I think this is what is good. You will have all those teams, and I just mentioned a few of the South Americans against European one, but you will have teams from everywhere facing each other in the US.
City.
Auckland City, exactly, for example. So this is great. PSG playing the first 2 games against Atletico Madrid and Botafogo in LA. So I'm just hoping that the bosses at ESPN just think it's a good idea to send me over there in the summer,
Hint, hint. Maybe you can visit Olivier Giroud while you're out there.
Exactly. And Hugo Lloris and Mike Rodriguez as well as our friend Mike Rodriguez. More FIFA for you, Gabby. We know that who the 2030 and 2034 World Cup hosts are going to be, obviously. But FIFA still needs to rubber stamp them. So what's happening on Wednesday at the FIFA Congress? And some are not too happy about it.
Well, so it's a virtual FIFA Congress. They're saying like, oh, look, we're being environmentally friendly.
Good.
And it's not even an online vote because they have to vote, right? So basically the Congress means like all the 211 member nations vote on it. But lately what they've been doing is, oh, let's not bother with a vote. Let's do it by acclamation, right? Where you say, okay, do we all agree? And everybody claps.
Hey.
So there's no dissent. I mean, Gianni Infantino gets really criticized for being autocratic about this. Clearly the process has been what it is. I don't think it's a good look to do it by acclamation. I think it's good from the perspective of our own FAs,
Yeah.
and there's been some criticism from Germany, from the Scandinavian FAs, especially vis-a-vis Saudi. You can have whatever opinion you want, but it kind of gives them an out. So it's kind of like, hey, Norway, hey, Germany, you say you're against the World Cup in Saudi? Well, you don't have to vote. You don't have to do an up and down vote. You'll just get lost in the people voting for acclamation.
Yeah.
You have to
It's
be account to your
weird, yeah.
stakeholders, right? So if I'm Norway and I say I'm against the World Cup in Saudi, you should have the right to vote against it. You're going to lose because it's all set now at this stage,
Yeah.
right? But this way, they don't have to take a stand either way. And I don't think that's a good look. I don't think it's a good look for what is a democratic part of this semi-democratic institution. Brazil have extended their kit deal with Nike through 2038, according to Associated Press.
Yeah.
It's worth just over $100 million a year. Jules, you're the kit guy.
Yeah.
You're wearing an Osasuna kit right now, I believe.
No, Oviedo. Even.
Oh, Oviedo.
Yeah, Real Oviedo.
Okay, vamos Celta Vigo.
Vamos.
Fair to say that this is the most iconic national team, right?
It is, obviously. It is.
Maybe even probably the most iconic kit around.
Yeah, one of
even
the
more
most
than Real
with
Madrid.
Argentina. Yeah, I mean, for the national teams, I think Argentina and Brazil, obviously, for obvious reasons, again, are the two very iconic ones. And there is a big battle between the kit makers, Nike, of course, Adidas as well, Puma, and we saw Nike losing Portugal, for example, very recently to another kit maker, but retaining France and Brazil. And I think they were the two ones. I mean, Germany as well, by the way, is losing Adidas.
I love how you nerd out on this whole thing.
I don't even know. It's amazing. But that's the price now you pay. It's around, not always, over $100 million a year for the kit, but not far from it, between 80 and 100 for the big countries. And that's why it is now.
And apparently as part of it, there's talk that they have the Brazilian FA have the right to open some like Brazilian FA branded stores around the world.
In other countries.
I got to say, that seems like a little bit. I know when you go to Brazil, you see a lot of people wearing like the green and gold branded this and that. That seems to be kind of pushing it a tiny bit, but definitely. Hey, more power to them.
Exactly.
I mean, look, let's face it. When it comes to Brazil, this is one of your biggest exports. One of the things you can be most proud of. You got a lot of things, but you are the gold standard in every way.
Gab, remember Lina Soluku, where reportedly she has a new gig.
That's right. She's reportedly going to join our friend Evangelos Marinakis' new multi-club operation, which involves Nottingham Forest, Olympiacos, and Rio Ave, given she was chief executive at Roma before resigning and getting on so well with the Friedkins and with the Roma fans and with Daniele De Rossi. This is her new gig. I don't know, between her and Edu, I don't know who is going to have the responsibility of following Evangelos Marinakis around his house.
With a tissue?
With a tissue, yes, because, of course, he likes to spit, right? And he expectorates. And if there's a servant with a tissue, or if he has a tissue himself, he will spit into it. But as we found out from his lawyer, sometimes he just likes to spit on the ground.
Exactly.
So, which is entirely normal behavior.
Absolutely.
Evangelos, don't blame me. Blame your lawyer who says stupid things. You actually pay him to make you look like an oaf who spits on the ground. I don't know what to tell you, man. Take it up with him. Back to Manchester United. There were fan protests at Old Trafford over the increase in individual ticket prices from £40 for adults to £66 with no concessions for children or senior citizens. Jules, United says it only covers 3% of the tickets. Many don't like the fact that it's happening in mid-season.
And I could not agree more, Gab. This is a terrible look, again, for the club. When you thought that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos could bring a bit more, or could bring the end of the chaos, well, it looks chaotic again between the defeat at the weekend, Ashworth, the tickets, the protest. What Ratcliffe has been saying in the United We Stand fanzine, I think it's a terrible look. And at the time
you did the math here about how much money
no, you did the math.
Okay, but I wrote it down for you. You pretended you did the math. So this concerns the 3% of tickets which which are basically unsold. The ones that don't go to season ticket holders, right? It's only 3%. Old Trafford's a big place. And how much money are they going to make?
So between £630,000 to £800,000
in the 11 remaining home Premier League dates. So basically, it's like 1/5 of a Dan Ashworth.
Exactly. I mean, I find this pathetic to do that halfway through the season like that. I find it pathetic that Ratcliffe tried to justify it by saying, I don't think it makes sense for a Manchester United ticket to cost less than a ticket to see Fulham. I mean,
Okay, so let me explain. I'm sorry, Jim.
I'm sure
Can
he's
I-
listening. So tell
Can
him.
I explain some basic supply and demand here? Right.
Yeah.
Fulham have a little teeny tiny
Small
stadium
in London,
called
in
Craven
the
Cottage.
rich
It's
part of
in
London.
It's in one of the wealthiest parts of London. Fulham have much wealthier fans than you do. These working class Manchester United fans who've been following you, the ones who can't even afford a season ticket. I know you don't charge a crazy amount for season tickets at Old Trafford, but the ones who go there and are just happy to buy 1 or 2 games a year, those are the people who you're screwing over. The ones who can't afford full-on season tickets. And so to compare yourself to Fulham, who happen to be a much, again, smaller stadium,
Yeah.
richer fan base, it's supply and demand. That's all it is. And you don't need to go and put Fulham down like this, who I believe are ahead of you in the table, by the way.
Yeah, way ahead of you. And also, when Brentford are launching their Gen 10 initiative for young fans, under the age of 18, to be able to buy cheap tickets for £10, whether it's home or away. At the same time, United do this, and that's just, I think it's just a terrible look.
Yeah, I didn't know this about Brentford. I mean, Brentford
Yeah.
don't
Brentford
have a
are
big fan
very-
base,
no,
and they have
true.
a teeny tiny stadium.
Yeah,
Very
so
nice
it's
stadium.
easier
but-
for them to do, probably, and I understand that, but it's still such a terrible look, I think.
But it's a terrible look to make so little extra money.
Yeah, as well.
This
yeah.
is the absurd thing.
I know. Gab, the Esposito brothers made history in Italy this weekend.
I love this. There's 3 of them.
Yeah.
The most talented one is Sebastiano Esposito. He's a guy who was, he came through the ranks at Inter. I think he's still on the Inter books. He was thought to be some sort of number 10. He scored 2 goals playing for Empoli in Serie A against Verona. But then he has 2 little brothers, Salvatore and Francesco Pio. Salvatore scored 2 goals.
Yeah.
Francesco Pio scored 1. They both play for Spezia, who beat Cittadella in Serie B 5-0. And the crazy thing is, all this happened at the same time. All these games
all on
kicked off
Sundays.
at 3 o'clock local time on Sunday. They all scored. I don't know the parents.
amazing.
I don't know if the parents split up. One watches one game, one watches the other
must-
game.
yeah, I
if they have
guess
2
so.
TVs, or if I just love it. I love the idea of. There've been some example of sort of 3 generation or 3 different brothers, and please, social media, do your thing. If you can find an
Yeah.
example of 3 different brothers playing professional football who all scored on the same day at the same time, and it's in a real league, not in the Muppet Show, then we will happily name check them on the next show. The LA Galaxy are MLS Cup champions for the millionth time, beating New York Red Bulls 2-1. Jules?
Yeah, well done to them. I think it's well deserved. They've had a really good season overall, the regular season and the playoffs as well. They've got some of the best players in the league, and in Ricky Puig, maybe certainly one of the best, if not the best overall, with Messi. And he was not there even for the final because he got injured in the conference final. That he set up the winning goal while being injured, which is pretty incredible story in itself. So even without him, and there was a lot of tribute for Ricky Puig.
And
after
Marco
the game.
Royce having to come on as a sub. Not
Marco
fit.
Royce is still a sub more. I don't think he's at 34, whatever, 35. I don't think he gets into that first team anyway. But good for him that finally he gets a trophy, because he had no title in his whole career. And I think it's very nice for Marco Royce to finally get something with this MLS Cup. So well done, I think, to the Galaxies. And for the New York Red Bulls, we said on Thursday that they've gone a long way compared to where they were in the regular season. They've done amazing to get that far. I think they were just never good enough to beat the Galaxy in the final. And Gab, we also found out who is the MLS MVP, and no prizes for guessing. It is.
That's right. Christian Benteke, 23 goals. MLS. No, just kidding.
It could have been.
No, it couldn't have been. It has to be Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
Whatever you think of him, the guy only played in 19 games. He scored 20 goals and he had 16 assists. I mean, those numbers are just out of this world. Even if you want to expand it more broadly to the impact he had on MLS this season, the rising attendances, the increase in interest and everything else, there was only going to be one answer, and it was going to be Lionel Messi. And by the way, I'm assuming, like as they often do in American sports, all these votes come in before the playoffs. So the fact that
they were knocked out straight away.
they were knocked out straight
impact.
away doesn't affect it. Jules, this brings us to an end.
Ah.
But guess what? It's one of those weeks.
Yes.
The champions.
Champions!
I'll be going to Atalanta Real Madrid, as I might have
Yes,
mentioned
you
earlier
are.
in the show.
Yes.
You sadly can't be with us on Thursday, but that's okay.
Yeah, I know.
Because
sorry.
we have the English version of you, guy
Yeah.
who looks like you in a few years, and that is Rob Palmer. Until then, love the game, love your neighbor, love yourself.